Hi. So, I know this is probably the first time that I have ever talked about my autistic traits in my channel, but I'm an autistic individual that has been in the workplace for 4 years, I believe. This year would be the fifth. So I feel like I have enough experience to hopefully um, give some tips and tricks for autistic people to survive in the workplace environment. And however, this is only true for me and it's also based on my personal experience. So probably different people in different positions and different place in the spectrum. Maybe some of you guys are more severe than me, and some doesn't was not bothered too much with the autistic traits. Then you would have different experience compared to me. So I would just give the advice based on my own experience, and I hope that you can pick up one or two tricks from what I've shared as well. So first off, the sensory overload. What words I would use to describe this is, oh my God, uh, because recently the companies and the enterprise, and especially during Gen Z generations, they all seems to opt for open office. Every single office will open office, and that's introduced just loads of nightmares for those overly sensory overload people. I would really struggle with keyboard noises, mouse clicking noise, and some of the noise that my coworker would often produce during the small talks while they're working. I don't understand why they have small talks during during the time that they were supposed to work, but they do, and that's really drives me nuts. So what I would think that would be a best solutions, and this is the way that I used to cope, is first buy a construction headphones. Just use construction headphones during the time that you need to work is helps with reducing the noise and allow you to concentrate more on your work compared to how you were before. One of the brands that I would personally recommend is 3M, and I think I also use other brands, but I think 3M is the best amongst them because the curves better around the ears, I think, and I could just pick between different tightness and different thickness of the headphones when it comes to 3Ms. Also, you can use noise cancelling headphones, but they would not be as effective in noise reductions compared to construction headphones. Uh, that's based on my own experience. I tried noise cancelling headphones, but I have to move away from that and using construction headphones instead. But if the sensory overload regarding to sounds for you was not as heavy, I think, the as me, then I think that you could use the noise cancelling headphones with some autistic friendly music on the background, or you can put your favorite song in repeats. I think that for autistic individual, we all know that we would love it if we get to play our favorite song in repeats forever and forever. I could listen to one song for a few months before I actually got bored on it. And even after that, I would still constantly coming back and then hearing them. So far, I've heard SOS of Dimash for 6 months in a row and still hasn't got bored on it yet. Um, so if that is for the sounds, if you got a sound sensory overload, which I had, but I know that other people have situations with uh light as well, and maybe some people also has to deal with touch, which I can get to an extent, but I only have troubles with jeans, clothes, and not the others, not too much. And also for touch, I was fortunate enough to be working on an IT industry where people doesn't care too much about what clothes you wear to work as long as you're formal. So I would just wear this clothes, the clothes for jogging, which has the fabric that was uh I don't know, much more soft and easy to wear compared to the suits or the jeans clothes, which often are rubbing really hard against my skin. Also, if you have trouble with light in the office, if they shine too bright or sometimes too dim, things like that, then it would help if you can change the color filtering uh, of your glass. I don't know this, you have to ask your personal um, glass prescription, but I'm not sure how it works because I have never had a trouble with light, so I never ask. I simply never ask them. So that is my first tips. My second tips are with eye contact. Yeah, this I think that many autistic individuals do have these issues with eye contact. You either just don't look at other people's in the eyes at all, or you don't know how to look. And I have trouble with that all the time. I don't know when I'm supposed to look and for how long I'm supposed to look into other people's eyes, and I'm just feels really uncomfortable when I try to stare them. Yeah, I don't think that stares I should stare them, and I don't know how neurotypical people does it either. So in this case, I believe it would be best if you could try to either look people in the nose, or some area that's more closer to the eye, but not directly in the eyes, nose, mouth, things like that. But one of the things that I think was a godsend was Google Meet and Zoom and other online meeting platforms, because while we are on online meetings platforms, we don't really have to look all these people directly in the eye. Sometimes you look off the camera or you just look a little bit down and they would still think that you're looking to them, because somehow the way that the computer's camera will being situated, it would be easy for people to forgiving us for not having eye contact with them, uh, especially when they're trying to presenting something on the screen. Then we would look on the present screen instead of directly onto the interviewer's eyes, or when we meet with a client, it's really helpful that we don't look them in the eye uh, in online meetings as well. So I would often trying to arrange an online meetings as much as possible, and I actually prefer that a lot over physical meetings. My favorite platform would be Google Meet, but I think that you can use Zoom as well, even though recently Zoom has one of the disadvantage that it limits the amount of time that you could spend in a meeting. So yeah, that's troublesome. I think that there are other online meeting platforms, like you could meet through Microsoft Teams, and you could use Skype and other, etc. Um, Slack also have a huddle thing that you could do online meeting platform on there. So the meetings has become more autistic friendly recently, I think. One of the next situation that you would want to uh, take under your control, and this tips would really help for autistic people that you try that that is you should try to make your workplace remain unchanged. So it depends on the company, but some companies they would want to swap your place every month or so. In my old company, they try to swap us every 6 months or every 3 months, I, I think. And so far, I haven't been swapped um, at all in my current workplace, but if the situation with swapping place occurred, then I would suggest that you try to locate things that are in your field of vision, and then you're trying to keep it the same. So, for example, for me, um, when I see directly into my desk, I would see that, yeah, there were a monitor screen in the center, but then there were two sides, and each side I need to have a thing, and I need to keep them the same. And then I will try to put um, other decorations like teddy bears, and I try to keep the teddy bears a little big. So that they block the field of visions, and then as long as that teddy bear, that tall teddy bear, was still there, then it was fine. So what I would often do, uh, in one side, I would often put a book and stopper. It was a very regular thing in the office, and other people would not find that strange at all for you to have a book and stopper where you put a lot of books there. But you want to find books that were tall and big as well. Um, for example, I'm not so sure. So I think that this book should have been good, because when you are working, you want it to block you like this. So if it always stays the same, it would be very comfortable. So it would should be either this side or bigger. Um, Bigger is better, I think. Um, and then you will line up the books on one side, and then you put the stuff over there. You just need to try to buy a book and stopper, and I think that it's probably cost you around 15 10 to $15. It's not much, but it would save you a great deal um in anxiety whenever you have to change your seat. So that deals with one side. But if you have bookcase in both sides, it would look weird. So the other side, I suggest you to put a calendar, especially a standing calendar. You want to find a calendar that was a stand calendar, but it was tall. It was tall enough that it's blocked this vision. So I think this tall should be good. Um, So if you have those in both sides, then both of the field of your vision fields would remain the same. And then if your screen always remained the same, then it would reduce your anxiety whenever you have to change your seat, or whenever you have to work in a new environment with new colleagues, a lot. Because as long as the place you work are the same, the vision fields when you work are the same, you don't really care too much about who is your new, you know, work, coworker, neighbor, stuff like that. I tried not to look further than the view field of the bookend stopper. I don't want to really see the change outside of that. And so far, it's working, but maybe for some of you guys it doesn't working. I don't know. Um, just leave it in the comments to if you tried that and it didn't working. And if it worked, I'm glad to help. I'm glad to share my tips. And if you have any other solutions in order to keep the place you work consistently the same, and you don't have to deal with change uh, during the change of jobs or the change of work plus seats, then feel free to leave it in the comments below. Okay, another point that I think I want to talk about is the multitasking. So, regardless of jobs, regardless of positions, and your company, you will always find yourself in the situations where you received a lot of task, and then you ended up have to multitasking from one task to another, and it's overwhelming you. Then what I would do is that I would trying to carry a stack of notes. I carry a lot of notes in a giant bag, and whenever I come to work, I would actually carry a very heavy bags with a lot of notes in there. But what they does is that I could just write all of the task in a certain order inside that notes. So I would know, okay, first I will do this thing, and then second I would do this, and then third I will do another job, etc., etc. It will goes on like that, but it helps in break down all of the tasks that you were supposed to be multitasking into an ordered task, so you won't feel as much overwhelmed. However, there is a slight problem with this approach in the case that if your coworker asking for an unplanned work or something that you need to prioritize over others, and this I will talk in my next point. So the next point I would want to discuss is the unplanned events. So there will always be the case, as I already mentioned before, that some coworkers would want you to prioritize this task. They would want you to participate in an unplanned meetings and stuff like that. And normally you try to minimize those unplanned events in your work as much as possible, but sometimes it was just unavoidable situation. Then what I would always do is that I would trying to have a digital calendar to track all events. And one of the tools that I use a lot is Google Calendar. It's easy to use and is available on all Google's accounts. So using it would have been both free and easy to available for different companies, different organizations. So I would use that calendar, and I believe that Google Calendar have three things that you could create. You could either create an event, a task, or a meeting. So if I want to schedule every task, and then I want to make sure that, okay, I know that today I will do this task and that task, and then I will plan for this event, and then I will have this meeting, that meeting. Then I could put all of those schedule into a Google Calendar, and if there are a worker who wants me to prioritize this task, or who wants me to suddenly attend another meeting, then I would add those into my Google Calendar. I think that doing that somehow make it seems a little bit more scheduled. And also, for example, if I was told by the manager that I will have to prioritize this task, then I would often put it at about 15 or 20 minutes later than the point that the manager tells me. So I have the time to compose myself before actually working on the task. If a manager tells you that you need to get this task done now, it doesn't often means that you have to actually, okay, I have to jump into this task right now. No, is often means that you should deliver it as soon as possible. But if you need time to compose around 15 minutes, then it would be delivered 15 minutes later. You don't have to rush to do it now so that you feel so much anxiety, and then you ended up being in a shutdowns, and then you couldn't do it at all. You try to put it 15 minutes later, and I think that for different people with autistic threshold, they would requires either more times or less time. So depends on the times that you need to compose yourself, the times that you need to actually cope with this unplanned event. Of course, there will still be anxiety, there will still be struggles. Trust me, I was still shaking probably 30 minutes later after the unplanned event was announced. But just to the point that you could work on the task, then you should put that task after those certain minutes. For me, I'm fine after 15 minutes. I could start to work at that task, even though I still feel the anxiety after 30 minutes. But for others, it's probably going to be a different time frame. So put it as I don't know, just suit your time frame, I guess. The other situations that we could come up in the workplace, and I think that this is true for all companies, is the socialization. People expect you to socialize, to participate in small chats, and it's often the pains because sometimes I just couldn't navigate the social situations. I couldn't read between the lines, and then I don't often understand the jokes that my coworkers tell. So one of my first tips to avoid social situation is try to converse things using message chats as much as possible. Normally, I think that the company would have a platform for message chats. For example, they would use Skype, they would use Slack, and then you try to just type all of the things that you need to ask your coworker using that message chats. Then it will reduce the one-on-one meeting, or like social chit chat face to face. But there will be time when they spam you with personal chats, and you should type to them that you are working, and you couldn't reply on chat. Also, your coworker probably love to have chats during lunch. So if you want to avoid small chats on lunch, I found that there were two excuses that often working, but it's working in my company and in my culture, probably not working for other people. However, I will still present them here to see if it's any of use for you. So the first excuse that I always say that I was on a diet, and then I often eat a different type of meals that my coworkers eat, which means that they couldn't invite me out for lunch, and there would be much less occasions that we could have a small chat. Um, Also, if you're trying to pack your own lunch, that works as well. You could pack your own lunch and trying to go to a place where there are not much people there. Sometimes it's the park. Sometimes it's just the emergency staircase of my company, so you can have lunch in peace. Yeah, those thing works. Also, another situation that could be related to socializing that I feel was just a pain is the company parties that people often drag me into outside of working hours. So if you ever find yourself in this situation, trying to leave as soon as possible, um, just came up with the excuse that you have to have an appointment with someone. That's the only excuse I can came up with. And what I often do is that I just try to scramble myself any appointments during that time so I could have an excuse to leave. Um, I would just suddenly, during that parties, I would just text to my grandmother that if she needs to grab something, and if she said yes, then I could use that to get out of a party. That's how I used it, but um, yeah, it was probably not very good because that was truthful. Actually, I do have an appointment, but it's not prior appointment. So yeah, when I say to my colleagues, I never said that I have prior appointment. I just say that I have an appointment. I don't say when I make the appointment. When in fact, more often than not, I make the appointment right at the point of entering that party, or even during the party. I would just text my family left and right to see if they need anything so I could leave the party. Um, but sometimes I do have prior appointment, and that was just really lucky. Sometimes I have gym appointment, which is very lucky because I don't have to attend the party anymore. But one of the tips is that you should be uh, leaving before the sensory overwhelming becomes too much. So, for example, if you feel that you are on the verge of meltdowns or on the verge of shutdowns, then it should be your cues to leave. The situation that you should be dealing with a lot, and all us autistics, I think that it happens to us very often, is either the meltdown or the shutdowns. I was really lucky because I've never experienced any meltdown, but only shutdowns. I think that I experienced probably one time meltdowns, but most of them are just shutdowns. And I know that when shutdowns happens, you just cannot control it. And sometimes when I have shutdowns, I would just sit there, stare blankly at the at my desk, at my computer, or I would just standing in the hallway, I doing nothing. I just basically completely stopped. My brain exe crash, and I stand there blankly, just have nothing running through my mind at all. There was just too much, and everything has to shut. So one of my tips for these cases is that if you could locate a good place to have your melts down, and you should typically do this before you actually get into the job, that you have to locate, okay, is there an emergency staircase next to where I work? If there are any toilet stall, or can I stay in the hallways to have a meltdown? If there any private place, um, and then before you feel like you're going to get past threshold uh, of your withstand, before you if you can feel that you are going to have a meltdown or shutdowns, you can quickly relocate yourself there. Of course, that is only in the ideal case that you could actually sense that you're going to have this. But if it's happened so sudden, and often it does happen so sudden, then there's nothing you can do about it. And I feel really sorry for people who have meltdowns instead of shutdowns. They couldn't contain themselves and they create a very terrible situation. Um, and yeah, it was just really bad for them. And I was always appreciate God that even though uh, I was autistic, I was lucky to doesn't have meltdown but only shutdowns, so it create less embarrassing situation for me. Oh, and one of the last tips um, to survive in the workplace is that just trying to work with your interests, trying to insert your passions into work. If you could um, somehow turn your special interest into work, then yeah, just do it. Just make your special interest into work. You would be more engrossed into your work than ever, and you would find that working is not as terrible if the work was aligned with your interest. I was lucky to have my special interest become my work, so um, it was less suffering for me during the working hours. Of course, I will still have to make a lot of adjustment and accommodations. And if any of you guys have better solutions than me in the workplace, just suggest in the comments below, and I really would appreciate it. I'm still trying to find all the solutions that I could have for my situations, for all the trouble in the workplace. And maybe there are some trouble that I couldn't solve yet, and I didn't notice but before. So if you have that trouble and you find some sort of tips and tricks and solutions, just comments. Also, if you could work from home, if you were senior enough that people allows you to work from home, my suggestion is work from home is better